Welcome to Interpod, a podcast by Interpride where the world comes together for the LGBTQIA+ community.
Here's our guest host for the episode, Meow.
I think we'll just get started by having everyone introduce yourselves, your pronouns, and the organization or your role and what you serve. Why don't we start with Jessica, who's here from Cambodia. I think we start with you. You're here in person before we go to our global speakers.
Yeah, okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Jessica, or everybody else calls me Jessie. And I guess I'm representing Cambodia. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I guess in the future, sometime, I want to be able to create some kind of organization for people to come to Cambodia and seek help and just medical care.
So, I am in Cape Town, and when we were in Colombia, I was representing the Cape Town Pride, and we managed to win the bid for the World Pride. So I'm excited to see all of you guys in 2028 in Cape Town. Currently, my organization is the Soulversity Artivist Network. I collaborate with a number of organizations in our region, the Queer Film, Feminist Film Collective, the Shakura Collective, amongst many other across Africa and the global south. So we focus on healing. We focus on co-creating instead of competing. And I think, this energy that we want is a collective movement. So we are proud and honored to be part of your panel this evening. Thank you for having us.
Hi, everyone. My name is Julia, and I'm an activist from Poland, but today I'm connecting with you from Budapest, where we will have Pride next Saturday. I am serving as a board member of European Pride's Organizers Association, so I will tell you a little bit about what's happening in Poland, in Europe, on the ground, and I'm happy to see you all. And also, I love that we have women panel, finally. Not only men can talk about pride.
You know what? Yes, let's give a huge round of applause for that because, and it wasn't on purpose, but you can see women have been the future.
Hi, hey everyone. My name is Melissa. I'm from Guadalajara Pride. Pronouns she, her. Well, I am right now in charge of this program of a future event that we're planning to do, which is PanAmerican Pride. It's the first edition ever of that. And we are looking forward to uniting the whole continent, especially with Latin Pride. And that's pretty much all about me. I'm in charge of youth and international affairs right now.
Very cool. Thank you, Melissa. And last but not least, Koko.
So, good morning, San Francisco, and good morning somewhere else. Good afternoon and good evening to myself. It's already 1 a.m. here in Bangkok, Thailand. So, I try to stay awake as much as I can. My name is Koko. I am a transgender woman. I am a gender scholar and communication strategist based in Bangkok, Thailand here. So, by day, I work in corporate communications, but my deeper calling lies in activism, where I work at the intersection of public policy, grassroots organizing, and queer representation with a strong focus on amplifying trans and non-Western voices in global conversation. I am also the co-founder of Transpride Thailand, which we just hosted this 2 days event on the 23rd and 24th of this month. It is basically a historic movement now, and it's in its second year. And more than just a celebration, Transpride Thailand is basically a political and cultural platform built by and for the most marginalized in our community, from rural trans youth to the undocumented trans sex worker. And we just don't take up space, but we are growing it. We challenge it and we reshape it. And that's how we do it here in Thailand.
Well, this next question is big, but let's address what the current situation is for the LGBTQIA plus movement and rights, and also, yes, Pride in the region where you are. Why don't we start with Julia?
This is a really big question. Because, of course, if you look at Europe, we have Western Europe that is a little bit better than Eastern part of it, of course. But actually following what Koko started, I feel like what we always have to remember is that our trans siblings are always having the worst. In Poland, for example, if you're a trans person and you want your ID being fixed with your identity, you need to sue your own parents. Since the state recognized that this was the parents who gave you the wrong sex, not the medical doctors or anyone else. And if we even look at Hungary right now, where we are facing ban of Pride that will happen on Saturday, we are actually marching illegally in Hungary. Again, if we look at the group that has it the worst, it will be trans people. And of course, Europe is doing a huge work, working towards inclusion, towards safety of the most marginalized communities. But it's really hard for Eastern Europe, where not even lesbians and gays have rights. So at the end of the day, I feel like we have, on one hand, this huge disproportion that we can see on the whole world. So gays and lesbian versus the rest of the groups. We have this huge division between big cities and villages, and we have this huge division between Western and Eastern part of Europe. And when we put it all into one bowl, it's a tornado. You can have an okay situation in Warsaw, capital of Poland, and it's fine, it's quite safe, it's quite okay to be gay, it's quite okay to be trans. And then you have you can have really bad situation even in Germany or Norway when you look at the small villages and the small communities. So I feel like it's a big of a question, because depending on which person you pick from this whole big continent, it can be good or bad. Because of course we have to add the layer of economical privileges, you have to add the layer of the color of your skin, you have to add the layer of your education and all of the privileges that you can have on this wheel of privilege. And of course, if you add disability, for example, into that, it is much, much harder than for able-bodied LGBTQ community. But I would say that I am quite hopeful. Even now, with this ban of Pride in Hungary, we are now approximately 500 people from all over the countries in Europe coming in solidarity to fight this ban, to take the fines, and if we have to, for other people who cannot march safely. So for Hungarians who are not privileged enough to actually take the streets. So I would say that we have a great solidarity in this movement, and this is something that actually keeps me going and actually keeps me, eager to support the movement.
Wow, thank you so much for that, Julia. I will come back to this because, right, like we had talked about it a little bit, what's happening, for example, Budapest and Budapest Pride, as you had mentioned before, and there being a ban, but there's also this hope because you have other people who are jumping in and being a part of the community. So we'll come back to you on that. Carmen, what's happening in Capetown and the LGBTQIA plus community?
Cape Town's known to be the gay capital in Africa. And on a lighter note, I see good movement happen, but to be honest, we do have murders taking place. We do have violence. We do have discrimination. We have recently experienced the assassination of the Imam Muhsin, who was the first openly gay imam, globally. So we have experienced an increase of violence in our communities, and I think also from what I know, I think there is legislation that's increasing in Uganda. If you now should go over to Africa as well. So a lot is changing. I am hopeful, like Julia said, there's hope because I do see as well a strong increase of connectivity. Look, we're sitting globally connecting right now, and that for me is showing that there's room for improvement of what's happening and coming closer to home. For me, it was coming back to ourselves because there's a lot of noise happening in the world right now that's against human rights overall. But it's coming out back to ourselves. And I think at home, for me, it's if we don't know who we are, then we're going to allow everyone to push us around. And for me, this human rights movement, it's also collectively being authentic. So I think like being queer should be contagious. And I think we should let it up.
Yeah, you're right. We'll see you in Cape Town. Cape Town, right? 2028, World Pride.
There you go. Yeah. But there's healing that needs to take place. I'm not going to lie. We have indigenous healing that needs to take place. The land is sad. A lot is still happening against humanity right now. There's actual war taking place. As much as we want to bring a lighter note to the hope, we are aware of what's currently happening right now. And like there's times where I cannot go to bed knowing that's happening. Besides, there's people dying of hunger right now. There's children that do not even have a life, you know, or a freedom of a will to just live. So for me, it's a crime that's bigger than one unit of a collective in the sense of the United Nations. But I think it needs more of a humanity to come together and say, how can we create change on the ground?
Amazing. Thank you so much, Carmen. Koko, I mean, some exciting things, but at the same time, more work has to be continued. What's going on in Thailand?
All right. Okay. So let me start with what many people may already know, right? So first, yes, Thailand are recently passed marriage equality in January this year. So basically, this was basically a historic step and undeniably a moment of national pride. It placed Thailand, ahead of many of its neighbors in Southeast Asia in terms of LGBTQ legal recognition. But one thing to remember is that we need to be cautious here that progress should not be mistaken for completion, which leads to my second analysis, which is secondly, despite the marriage equality, we still have no legal gender recognition for trans people. What does that mean in practice, right? So it means that, as a trans woman myself, I can now get legally married, but I will have to do so under the gender assigned to me at birth. So I'm not the one reflect who I am at all. So there's no legal process to change one's gender marker in Thailand, regardless of whether someone has undergone transition or not. So basically this creates, a cascade of challenges, like Julia said, from mismatch of ID card to being misgendered in hospitals, airports, and job applications. So basically, trans and non-binary people are expected to navigate systems that refuse to recognize us. So while the law say I can love freely, it still does not allow me to exist fully. And thirdly, our identities are still rendered invisible with structural systems. So in education, for example, let's say young trans and non-binary students are often forced to wear, uniform based on their sex assigned at birth, and many schools do not allow gender-affirming dress or hairstyle, even if the Ministry of Education say so. But there's a very small clause saying that this sits upon school discretion, meaning that school has the full right to either go with that or deny that, right? So this problem continues into adulthood as well. In healthcare, there are few trained professionals who understand trans-specific needs, right? Mental health services often pathologize rather than affirm. And there's a severe lack of public data on LGBTQ populations, which means we remain uncounted, uncatered for, and misunderstood a lot. Fourthly, we are highly visible, but selectively so, I would say. We can see queer people on magazine cover. We see drag and trans women appear on television, beauty queen, etc. But that visibility is often aesthetic, not political, I would say. It rarely translates into policies that protect us. In fact, I think it creates a paradox that we are seen but not recognized, celebrated but not safeguarded. So it's kind of performative inclusion that, glosses over the lived realities of trans sex workers, undocumented queer migrants, or even rural LGBTQ youth who are still systematically excluded, including myself. So if you ask me where are we now, I would rather say that we're at a crossroad. And here's something else that we really need to confront, that basically the queer movement in Thailand and also in many parts of the world is still predominantly led by cisgender, homonormative gay men, especially those who are urban and middle class. So that basically creates a hierarchy even within our own community when one identity dominates, right? And while marriage equality is worth celebrating in Thailand and many parts of the world, we must also ask, whose rights are we fighting for and whose are we still leaving behind? And for many of us, I think the fight isn't about celebration yet. It's still about, recognition, and actual recognition requires more than visibility, and it demands power sharing, structural change, and movement that uplift all queer lives, not just the palatable ones, right? So Thailand has the momentum. I would say there's growing public support and political will, but we cannot stop at the symbolic victories. The next battle are harder, especially on legal gender recognition. I think it requires structural overhaul, not just legislative, but headlines. And for many of us, the fight right now is not for celebration. It is still for recognition and for the right to be counted, to be safe, and to be seen as who we truly are. So I think that's the situation where we're at right now.
Wow. Thank you so much, Koko. Power sharing. That's a t-shirt for next year. File that. Well, actually, let's be active and let's just start doing that right now. Melissa, what's going on in Guadalajara?
Well, right now Guadalajara is actually in a good place. It has a lot of advances, a lot of progress into it. LGBTQ plus rights are usually visibilized, respected at times. It also depends on which community are we focusing on, because effectively, for example, trans people are the more marginalized ones. I think that happens everywhere in the world, but we still have some recognition towards their identities. In our state, we have the legal guarantee for them to for gender affirming, also coming from children to teenagers, but that doesn't happen necessarily in all Mexico. Mexico is quite it has a very large range from progress to conservatism. You can see that legal equality and guaranteed rights in real life happen in some places. We also have to work to maintain them and to actually have them respected through public measures, public policies, reliable mechanisms. We often think that just because it is visibilized in the law, especially in our state's law from Jalisco, which is where Guadalajara is from, we think, oh, well, it's already there, perfect. We can actually see it, and you have worked for it, but it's not enough because you have to continue to preserve it. And there's a lot of major forces around us that usually include very, very powerful men or conservative families from the past that evolve into our political standards, and therefore it prevents us from advancing more, which is exactly what happens around the whole Mexican territory, because we have some very, very liberal states with advanced measures. And actually, in our constitution, we have the first paragraph of our constitution that actually and explicitly says that we have to show respect according to the principles of interdependence, indivisibility, progressivity, universality, and we also have to prevent sanctions and repair violations under what's established by law, which obviously, well, for some people it's not actually obvious, but it has to include our community, you know? Right now, the main challenges that we have is pretty much that, the transition from the legal form to the practical way, because you still can get, if someone finds out your gender identity, your sexual preference, you can still get marginalized at a job, at relationship status, with your family, you can get discriminated. So it's not all happy ending here in Mexico or Guadalajara. We still have some ways that we should try to continue to improve what we have and do more, because it's not enough. And I think it's a good thing that we are having this kind of mentality, especially I find a lot of young people that think that we should actually do this not just from the political stance, but also from like a profound cultural change.
Thank you so much, Melissa. And last but not least, Jessie, so you are here from Cambodia. What is life like, and kind of what's the reason, I think you moved there, but anyway, share your story.
So, wow, okay, that was a long time. So I moved from the US to Cambodia due to not being able to acquire the bottom surgery. And so we were actually going to go to Thailand first because, they're first in surgery. They're, known for their, really good surgery. But we really liked Cambodia. And so, we stayed there. The community there is generally, they know homosexual, gays. There's a lot of gay bars and clubs, and they generally use gay as like an umbrella term because they are not as educated on transgender or lesbian. And so I've met a lot of people who I feel would grow in character if they knew about, transitioning and lesbian, because it's mostly centered around, there's just gay bars and where people, or where men can meet. But there are a few groups who are very inclusive to everybody, and I think they're very good, educational, and the medical there. Generally, Cambodia is very cheap, especially compared to America. And so it's very easy to get estrogen and testosterone shots. I do have to say that their bottom surgery is definitely not the best. It's also, it's a good thing that it's right next to Thailand, so people can just head over to Thailand for bottom surgery and have a stable way to get their hormones every month. And so me and my family just fell in love with it. Sorry,
thank you so much for sharing. And we're going to get into, the lived experiences and the reason for moving, but also what's happening right now, which is a great segue to our next question, and that's addressing the rise of right-wing extremism, Western powers, and how this has affected our lives globally, especially on the issue of human rights. By the way, I will walk around with a mic, so if you're here in person and would like to ask a question for our panel, that's coming up, so follow your question. And I'm getting questions from social media, so there's a ton of you who are watching our live stream. Thank you. Let's address that. Julia, you're obviously the first person I keep picking on, but there's so much happening in Central Europe, and you probably can explain a whole lot to us in terms of context of this rise of right-wing extremism.
Again, a big question. So of course, what we have to always remember is that I think Koko said that we cannot stop because the right wing is never stopping. So we cannot stay content on one level because they will just outrank us, outjump us as soon as they can. We can see in Europe, in whole Europe, we can see a huge rise of right wing coming into power. Of course, it is. We are following a little bit America with Trump. We have to remember that America, United States will always give this big trends for the whole Europe, for the whole world, and including Europe. So, of course, Trump gave some fuel to right-wing politicians with his first presidency and now coming back to power again. And what we see, for example, in Italy, Italy was going into an amazing direction. They had equal marriage, they had surrogacy, they had adoptions for LGBTQ people. They were working towards more inclusion for trans people. Everything was going into great direction. And then Giorgia Meloni came. So a very prominent right-wing politician, and everything now is being taken back. So adoption is illegal anymore. Surrogacy was being called the capital crime. So not even you cannot become a surrogate within Italy, but if you try to use surrogacy from outside of Italy, you can also be punished. So we are moving into the completely different direction than Italy was moving. And what we see right now in Hungary, for example, 5 years ago, they illegalized being a trans person. How can you illegalize being trans, you may ask? They have no existence of any law for trans people right now. And they had than we had in Poland. So we were kind of jealous of they had in Hungary. And within the last 8 years, it's again coming back to the wrong direction. So I feel like, first of all, what they have and we don't is great amount of money. And whenever someone is saying that our movement is being by this cisgender men with economical privilege, I'm asking where the hell are the money from them? Because our movement, if we look at right, have a sponsorship for leaflets, they have sponsorship for demonstrations to our prides. They have money for training people into becoming better in being right-wing populists. They have a lot of money to fuel propaganda, our social media, and we don't have the same resources. So at the end of the day, I feel like we are losing to them because we cannot fight this farms of trolls on X. We cannot fight this advertisement on Facebook or on Instagram as well as they are doing it. So again, right-wing won presidential election in Poland just 2 weeks ago. And when we look why they won, is because they had a much better marketing campaign than the other candidate. So at the end of the day, I feel like what we need more is we need even more visibility and even more, marketing. I will use this word to show ourselves better, to be better outspoken, to be visible in media and in public sphere, to actually say that, okay, we are not going to disappear, even if you are going to push us, even if you are going to ban us. But at the end of the day, if we don't see the change in our petitions, if we don't see the change in centrists, in left-wing, who's also abandoning us sometimes, if they are not going to treat LGBTQ issues as equally important as the rule of law, the freedom of the courts, the freedom of election, we are still going to be in the shadows, and we are still going to be, one case, or, oh my God, these gays, they always want something. So I feel like what we need right now, and this is what we are working towards a lot in Europe, is to convince the centrist politicians that LGBTQ rights are the base of democracy. So if they want to protect democracy, as they say over and over again, they actually need to take minorities, not only us, but also people with disabilities, migrants, people of color, indigenous people in different countries, that they all need to secure the minority rights, because I feel like the democracy is only as strong as the protection of the most vulnerables.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. By the way, I want to keep us all safe, so if it's a question that you can't answer, feel free to pass or not jump in. So it's not a question for the entire panel. But Julia, very quickly though, can we go back to Budapest? I just want you to share the example, because the Prime Minister has said, or has banned Pride, but something remarkable is happening. Like the mayor in Budapest actually said, is ignoring the ban and said, we are going to hold Pride. Share with us, the power of that. There, this example of hope.
But this is the power of allies, right? And this is some mayors, especially in capital cities, they do actually understand what I said a few seconds ago, that democracy is actually, and the work of politicians is and the society is to protect the most vulnerable ones. So yes, Viktor Orban came up with this amazing idea to come up with a new law that basically threatens Pride. So the Pride is banned. The Ministry of Internal Affairs, of Foreign Affairs said, okay, we are banning Budapest Pride. And Mayor of Budapest came and said, oh, well, this is not a Pride, this is not a this will be a city event. And the city event as itself, it's not following the law that they created. What we are seeing right now is that we have to wait till Saturday, because at the end of the day, police can still say it was a protest. So at the end of the day, police still can stop us, still can fine us. That's why it was so important for so many people from abroad to come to Budapest, because we as international people are protecting the local people who are not able to walk, or if they are walking, they are a little bit more scared. Because why? We have AI and we cannot forget about it. So right now, Orban's government is using AI recognition. So they will film the whole march, and then they will use the AI face recognition to actually put people who were participating in a protest, to find them in a system that they have in Hungary. So again, more people, less possibility to actually pin names on the people who are participating in the protest. But at the end of the day, I'm really happy that there are courageous politicians still in a lot of European countries who are not afraid to participate in Pride, to become a true ally and help when the Pride is being banned by the government or by the police, and who are going to walk with us, because the mayor is going to walk with us and will be protecting us with his own body. So if the police would try to attack the Pride or beat people, he will also be at the front line. And this is something that is always super important. This is why we are inviting high-ranked politicians. This is why we are inviting ambassadors, because they are, and I have to use this word, human shields for us basic people, protesters, because the police will always treat them differently than us. They will always protect them more than they are protecting us.
Wow. Wow. Yes. Let's make some noise for courageous politicians and allies. Yeah. Yeah.
I know one of the questions was, not questions, but one of the statements was about how the right wing has money and it has the means to educate and also disseminate information. So I'm wondering what is like the queer equivalent, because you have Breitbart, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, Truth Social, all this other stuff. So like, what's the queer equivalent, if there is one?
I just simply don't think we have an equivalent, and this is an issue. That X being now bought by Elon Musk, whom I'm not going to comment, is actually turning this whole freedom of speech upside down. So especially in United States, I can see that the freedom of speech that was being made to protect the freedom of press is not now being used as a freedom of individuals. And this is also something that we have to address, that a freedom of speech does not mean that you can say whatever you want about whomever you want. And in the days of social media, this freedom of speech cannot work the same as it worked when we only had paper media or only television that was, having a news channel 1 hour per day or something. So unfortunately, I don't see any equivalent. And this is it, that we are kind of big community, but we are underprivileged in terms of economic, in terms of ability of resources. So we are big, but we don't have resources to actually create something that is ours, except for Pride and the situation that we have right now. So of course we can connect, we can discuss. But what I see at the end of the day is we don't have money to fuel these crazy ideas, these amazing ideas we have.
We need money. We need lots of it. Somebody give us lots and lots of money for human rights. Another question here from the audience.
Hi, I have a question for Thailand, actually, and it's a good segue from the money. We need lots of it. In Thailand, in the news, there was a lot of information, or a lot of news about the government offering I think $4 million for transgender medical care for its population. Have you seen that has, I guess, come to fruition? Have people been able to get medical care from the government this year after that statement was issued?
Thank you very much for the question. For what I can comment right now is that I think this is still the pilot project that is, still being under discussion. But I would say that I think it's very hopeful. And if it happens to be true, I would love to share this news and spread the word, within this panel. It's still work under progress, but as I said, this is very positive. And I think the government is coming towards the right direction to, protect transgender out from, legal protection. It's also the healthcare system. So I think this is a good way.
Another question from the audience.
Hi, so this is a question for Poland, Budapest. Specifically, I was wondering, I was a little unclear earlier when you said that in Poland you sue your parents if they giving you the wrong sex, gender, effectively, if you're trying to transition. I was wanting to know how did that policy come to be? Is it liberal politicians there? Is it conservative politicians? And what's kind of been the direct work to countermand that that specific niche policy? Thank you.
Yes, thanks for that. It is actually a loophole in our law because we don't have a law for trans people at all. But in late 80s, one judge encountered a case like this. We don't have a precedence in Poland, but it is being treated as a precedent. So one judge had a case like this, had a case of a person who wanted to change their sex in their documents. So they didn't know what to do about it. So they say, okay, let's sue your own parents. And this is how it stayed with us. We are trying trying to push now the new liberal government to change that, to humanize that. But for now, for the last 45 years, no one actually wanted to take care of it, treat it, because they always say that it's not important enough. We have to wait till the next elections, and then it's been 45 years with this.
Another question from the audience.
All right, now you can hear me. Wonderful. First off, I want to thank you guys so much for joining us today, especially from so far abroad. I think that tends to be a lot of discussion about how we are able to unify across different identities and different beliefs, and that one of the things that can be a little bit under discussed is how we can actually connect across distance. So I'd be curious to learn a little bit more about how you're able to connect with other queer movements and social movements outside of the country, outside of the city that you guys are based in, especially since there are local differences in the actual challenges and systems that you guys are facing.
I'm going to pass this question to Carmen and Melissa to answer. Carmen?
So actually, Julia made me think of this when she raised the question of, we cannot always rely on the right wings and left wings, but collectively, how do we get the funding? And I'm excited to say, because within the new movement that we are currently rolling out in Cape Town, we are coming together as a collective within various forms of specialists, whether it's your politicians, whether it's in the community workers, whether it's the social workers. We activate mental health advocacy, especially because we, as a community, have felt the effects of the apartheid years, of the colonial times. So right now, the focus for us is to come back to self. So collectively, we're coming together with all different skills, and we are collectively sourcing funding. So it's then various services that can be provided, but as a team, we roll it out that way, and our focus is, let's start with our youth, let's do with the children, let's focus on mental health across the board within corporates as well as on the ground, especially in the marginalized areas. Within that areas is where our focus point really thrives, because that's where it's needed and required. As I can say, I mentioned Cape Town Pride Cape Town in general is the gay capital of Africa, and a lot of our fellow African brothers and sisters would come here to celebrate. So it's important for us to keep a safe space, especially as well with the increase of our what's currently happening with the anti-LGBT movements globally impacting, and especially impacting the funding to healthcare, to social care. So the list go on, it's endless, but excited to say I do see progress collectively coming together. Currently across East Africa and South Africa, Namibia, we have teams that's running together and rolling out online courses to educate again across, whether it's healthcare, whether it is mental health care. It is just to educate a community, and my passion is art. I believe art is healing. So art and culture will always play a role with this movement. From my side, I think there we have strength, because we all can relate in many forms, doesn't matter where we are. And also, I think art creates a sense of love within self. So with that, that's the highest frequency for me. So, so I think we can overcome the right wings and the left wings and work together still as a unit to ask them for the help and collectively make those changes with the relevant legislations that needs to be set. But it has to start at home with self.
Great point. Absolutely. Melissa, very quickly, how do we stay globally connected as a queer community?
I think the way that we can stay globally connected, is definitely by looking in every place, even in the oddest of places, you know. You can start by getting communicated with enterprises, with civil organizations, with people from media, from political power, and you have to be involved in all of this dynamic of international relations and treat everyone as a pair, which is very helpful to increase allies into our community, and also to reach out for those who have not been taken care or being a part of our community, because that's still something that we have to help them embrace who they are and to promote from all of our prides, from all of our marches. What we do in our city is to collectively look everywhere. We start with our local government, and even if they don't listen to us, we go ahead and try from elsewhere, from governments, even from different kinds of states, and then we move out globally. We have some allies like HOLA, which is Orgullo Latinoamérica, is a civil organization. It's a very new one. It started it has a lot of years that it's been working on, but that it's officially been started on last year in Medellin. And that just promotes Latin pride. So you have to search for the specific types of fights that you want to accomplish, and then that is how you spread the word and collectively find out allies.
Hi there. Thank you all for sharing more about your experiences internationally. When I hear this, I think about where my family is from, and I used to live there in Belize. It's in Central America. It's a small country, Caribbean culture. There's so much I love about it, but as a trans person, I'm always scared to go back. And I do a lot of work on the movement here in San Francisco. Some of my questions is, how have you been able to change the minds of people who are maybe kind of in the middle or unsure? Maybe even have you worked with like religious leaders in any type of capacity? And I say that specifically because I know where I'm from, and even with my upbringing, religion is kind of the thing that people fall back on to kind of really radicalize their hate or radicalize their beliefs against queer community. So I was wondering, have you made any collaborations there in educating folks or joining the movement to kind of get more people to become allies or just more understanding of the community? Thank you.
Okay, it looks like Melissa wants to take on that question. Go ahead, Melissa.
And I'll go after.
Okay, so starting with the religious leaders and movements from Latin America, especially from Central America, which is the country you were speaking of, this is a very powerful subject, because you can actually see that religion is one of the main pillars of family structure. So I think you start with family, and then you move past it. For example, in our march that just happened a few days ago, there was this church that wanted to march with us, and they just actively collaborated with us. That they just wanted to show out that we do have diversity, that God is for everyone, etc. So I think you should look for the places in which you can think there's a little bit more of an opening, and with that you can start talking to them. You can approach them, and it's gonna take a long time and a while. I know some churches because my family is religious, but you still have to work with them. You know, it's not like, oh well, I accept you just fine. No, they also have to look for the respect in their words and on their actions.
Carmen, I know that you wanted to follow up on that.
Yeah. Hi, Michelle. Yeah, so I actually, to a positive note to add on that one, we have a radio station called Africa Radio, who is the owner is actually a religious leader. And I must say, for the last 2 months, that the segment, the Lavender Lounge, which is for the queer community's voices to be heard, since we've been on the platform, there has been an increase of listeners and interest because awareness has been brought to this very conservative platform. And this is a digital radio station, so we can also connect globally. If any of you guys would like to be guests, you are welcome to let me know and we can hook up. But on a serious note, the feedback we've received are from religious background community, and they are open-minded to hear because they're now starting to ask questions about my child. So tell me more. I want to know. I didn't know you guys feel that way. Is that so? The questions are coming, the awareness are coming, and they like have a different approach because I think now they can actually have a little access to the individual. That makes a huge difference. So on a positive side, I think the awareness is important in media, and coming together collectively to drive that platforms as well, to show growth, to show visibility is important because the stigma and discrimination is not going to end unless we become more visible with who we are. So, like,
Thank you.
I think I want to leave it positive because I know they are obviously a lot of tragedy happening right now, and I don't even want to focus on that.
Hi, everyone. So we had some, what I think is good news this week in the U.S., which is that in New York City, and in New York, actually, there's a socialist Muslim immigrant who won the Democratic nomination for mayor. And yeah, Zohan Madmani. And if he wins, which he has a very good chance, he's going to put a lot of money towards transgender affirming care and so forth. But he's not a part of our community. And so I think a lot about how all struggles of liberation are interconnected and how we really can't win alone, you know, for the financial reasons and also for strategy reasons. And so I'm curious, in your worlds, where do you see the opportunities for solidarity with organizations or groups or people who are not part of our community, who we can really link arms with and join forces with, who can support us with the struggles that we're facing?
Before I open it up to the virtual panel, Jesse, I'm going to give you an opportunity, since trans youth moved to an entire different country, to put your health first. Do you want to take a stab at answering that question?
Let's see. So basically groups that we might want to join arms with and fight together. Honestly, there are so many that I can't name right now.
You want me to come back to you? Give it your...
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. There are a lot of movements around the world, a lot of minorities that people don't associate with each other. And like you guys said earlier, they want to pit us against each other, even in the LGBTQ community, where, you know, like lesbians and gay people might not like each other. Like, there's a lot of conflict or people trying to make up problems where there aren't. And so I feel like I think we should just, like everybody else has said, you know, join arms.
Great answer. Anyone from the virtual panel? Yes, Koko, go ahead.
Give it to Julia first. She raised her hand first.
Oh, okay, Julia.
I will reverse that, actually, because it's not only who can support us, but also about, for me, who we can support. So a great example we had in Poland, we invited the biggest organization of people with disabilities to our Pride. And I'm not sure if I can say that, but they wrote us back, fuck off. And they didn't want to come. So the next year, when they were organizing the protest in our parliament, they were actually occupying Polish parliament for more than 4 weeks. We were bringing them water and food. So on the next Pride, they joined because they saw that we are not, we don't want them as token to show, oh, how open we are, but we really want this true solidarity. So I would always like us to remember that it's not only one way, so what people can give us, but also how we can use our platform. And Pride, it is a huge platform. We are having access to companies, to media, to politicians, that some of these small groups, especially Roma people in Europe, that don't have the same access, that don't have the same publicity. So I would say that, of course, every group can be a connection to us, but I would like us to not only think how we can benefit, but how both of the sides can learn and benefit from this cooperation.
Koko.
And I think, yeah, pretty much I agree with Julia as well. I think that's pretty much what we are actually doing right now with TransPride Thailand too. I think that, from the first year, this is our second year, the first year we started, it was very dry. I mean, not so much support from, corporates, from the government, so on and so forth. I mean, there were support, but not as many as, compared to this year. And I think what we did is that we leveraged ourselves as well. I think that what we have to, is to weaponize ourselves. If people love something, some popularity, we give it to them. If people love to see something flashy, we give it to them. But at the same time, we do not forget the basic essence and core as well of why we are running this movement. So basically, this is the kind of combination that we're doing. So, by doing so, we flash it out on social media, we talk to the media more, we make our more presence, we engage with government stakeholders and also public, private sector as well. With the government, I think what is important is that, when it comes to healthcare of transgender people, for example, right, referring back to the question, I think it's also about, forming up the patient advocacy or, consumer advocacy group that, speaking and voicing out the specific needs of what we really need, especially, in transgender community, for example, right? We need free hormone therapy. We need, SRS support, whatsoever it is, right? We need to form the group and voice this out so that the government listen to us as a, citizen of the country. So 2 things. Number 1, we leverage our presence as a Pride movement. Number 2, we form the group and also we see what we can do. Like Julia said, what we can offer and what they can get from us. And from that way, I think this kind of combination, I think that's how, we make a great, not collaboration, but coalition with other stakeholders. That would be my answer.
We're going to end this amazing global panel by going around and asking our speakers here to give us just one word during this Pride that we all can take with us.
One word. I was a part of this community when I was very young, but since I was so young, I wasn't, I don't remember as much. And so being here with everybody, it feels very empowering to be with this community and to actually remember it with a clear mind. And I'm just really excited to see what's in the future.
For me, the word would be movement, but let me elaborate a little bit more. So basically, Thailand, Bangkok is bidding to host the World Pride 2030 as well. But hosting a global celebration means nothing if we don't, protect our own people first, like what we have in our conversation today, trans people, non-binary, marginalized group, right? And, let it be more than just symbolic. Let it be the commitment to build a country where trans people, don't just survive the parade, but live with dignity and long after it ends, right? And thank you, and may you, may your Pride be more than just a moment and make it as a movement. So happy Pride, everyone. Thank you very much from Thailand.
Whoa. Melissa.
I think the word I would choose would be resistance. To talk about it, I'd say it's what we have to continue doing towards the end of our days. So if we don't continue doing this, fighting for what we stand for what we think should happen, and in order for all of us to live in a respectful and powerful environment, I think we should teach everyone that resistance matters.
Carmen.
Like, I think when I started off, I used the word authenticity a lot. And I think I want to also end it with us remaining authentic within ourselves. A piece that I came across today was, what do butterflies have that caterpillars don't? And for me, it was, imagine a world where we are more rainbow butterflies going around instead of caterpillars, where the caterpillars are just the doers, one-minded, where the butterflies get to see so much more. And I think the love that I would want us to spread is that, being authentic within our rainbow little butterfly world, spreading the love wherever we go, into this pride. And I think I have more years celebrating pride than I have years organizing pride. So I also want to say it's important for us to continue spreading that awareness, because I think there's too many of us that's in a sense of just celebration. Not many are aware of the actual fights that's taking place and the actual work that needs to happen. So the more awareness that the activists would spread is what ultimately will bring back a bigger collective. So authenticity.
Authenticity. All right. Julia, last but not least, before we send you all away, one word for us.
So I feel like what we can learn from anti-gender movement, right-wing movement, is that they actually do not discriminate. They will work with everyone. Ku Klux Klan, that's fine. People who believe Earth is flat, that's fine. People who are anti-vaxxers, that's amazing. They are actually leaving a lot of space within their movement. And we as LGBTQ people, we tend to say, oh, I don't like you because of the color of your skin. I don't like you because you're trans. I don't like your outfit, so I'm not going to work with you. We tend to pick these very little things to actually not to cooperate. And I'm not a trans person myself, so who am I to judge Koko? I'm not from Africa, so who am I to judge Carmen? I've never been to Mexico, unfortunately, so who am I to judge Melissa and the way they are working, they are doing their activism. So what I would like to see in our community is less judgment, being more open, being fresh and curious about other people, because I don't know the circumstances many people are living, so I cannot judge them, because I will always look through the layers of my own privilege. And since I love this panel so much, my word would be also glitter. And I will leave San Francisco with that.
Woo-hoo! Yes. All right. Huge love. Give some love to our panel. And then before we say good night or good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, our audience, let's just, if you can, if you're able in any way, I'd love to say happy Pride all together on the count to 3. So 1, 2, 3. Happy Pride!
Thanks for listening to Interpod, a podcast by Interpride where the world comes together for the LGBTQIA+ community.
Subscribe to Interpod on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.